Hello everyone and welcome to the program Business Point on Global Television. I am Samuel Odi. Many thanks for joining on today's edition. Yes, you can see lots of smiles on my face because the All Share Index, that is Nigerian stock market, basically has been breaking thresholds on a daily basis, and that's super exciting for Nigerian economy, for the GDP, and as well as for SMEs. So this is what Nigerians need at this point to be seeing significant growth in this sector. So I'll bring you up to speed. The Nigerian All Share Index concluded the trading day on January the 8th, 2025 with a notable rise, climbing by 831.91 points to settling at 104,230.73 points. This is a significant growth, and that is obviously has been it's a spike actually on the stock market scene. The strong performance surpassed the 104 mark threshold, raising a 0.8% from the previous closing day, which was around 103,398.32 points, with investors now eyeing closing above 104,500 points on today's market. So the market opened today at 104,000 and a few figures points, and now we're expecting to see the threshold break and then spike through to before the close of business today. Latest achievements in this first quarter of 2024 is actually significant. However, despite this positive price movement, trading volume experienced a significant decline, dipping by 42.5%. Now this is where we have a bit of a rift, a bit of challenge. So despite the increment we're seeing, price items are beginning to dip, and then this is a significant dip of 42.5%. The volume fell from 1.1 billion shares exchanged the day before to 639 million shares on this same occasion. Market capitalization rose to 63.5 trillion over 13,551 transactions, I beg your pardon, a notable increase from 63 trillion naira recorded in the prior trading day. So looking at all of these now, the market summary showed that the current Nigerian All Share Index showed 104,230.73 points, and then previously at 103,398.82 points. Day change was a plus of 0.80%. Year-to-date performance shows plus 1.27%. Volume traded was 639.4 million shares was traded. Then the market capitalization remained at 63.5 trillion naira. This was what was traded on yesterday's open market. So the market opened on this note at 104,230.73 points. So looking at this trajectory now and the way the market is looking currently, Focus has shown that it's going to hit a mark of break another spike of around 105,000 points before the close of business today. Definitely Business Point will always bring you updates of this significant growth, and again the dip that we witnessed is also not going to be expected in the close of business because we're expecting a trajectory of a spike. So when that does happen, automatically the dip is going to stabilize, and then we are going to witness a bit of a bullish trend too when it has to do with all of the stocks that are being traded. Moving away from Nigerian stock exchange markets, let's have a conversation. We are looking at stability now. We're talking stability. The Nigerian naira and the dollar now have been on loggerheads from November. So now Nigerian naira is looking to stabilize at 1,538 naira, which was what was traded in the official market. But in the black market, naira was traded at 1,560 naira. So looking at this exchange rate now, the Nigerian naira is beginning to stabilize. So now with this stability now coming into place, though it's still being monitored. If you remember the current policy that was created by the Central Bank of Nigeria to help foreign exchange policies. So with all of this trajectory now, all of these policies is beginning to make Nigerian naira stabilize. So with this stabilization now, the SMEs and financial analysts now are looking to central bank to lessen the monetary policy and the fiscal policy so as it will enable SMEs and borrowers to be able to borrow. So in the other section of today's edition of Business Point, we'll be having a conversation where the SEC have also made, that Security Exchange Commission has made mention of stability and then easing borrowing schemes for individuals and corporate bodies. But before we get right into that conversation, there's something very exciting that is also going on within the Nigerian financial sector, which has to do with the Central Bank of Nigeria securing 1.47 trillion in sub for 364 days treasury bill, which is currently at 22.6% stop rate. So looking at this, the Central Bank of Nigeria, on behalf of the Debt Management Office, has revealed a 283.42% oversubscription worth 1.47 trillion naira for the 364-day treasury bills at the auction. Yes, so on January the 6th, as earlier this week, the Central Bank of Nigeria announced plans to issue treasury bill worth tenors of 91, 182, and also 364 days. So let me bring that on. Let me break this down for you to get clearer understanding. So for investors who will be investing, there are 3 different categories that you would have to invest if you want to invest in the treasury bill, which is a tenor of 91 days, a 182 days, and also a 364 days. Now, this is basically the 3 sectors that you would be able to invest in. That's the 3 tenors you'll be able to invest in if you want to invest in treasury bill. So looking at that now, the Central Bank of Nigeria sets for auction on the 8th of January, which was just yesterday. They offered 50 billion for 91-day bills, 80 billion for 182-day bills, and again 385 billion naira for the 365-day bills. So whichever you want, so investors can invest within this circle or within these angles. In the light of this, the subscription result revealed a 22.94 billion for the first 91-day bills, then a 20.81 billion naira for the day 182-day bills, and a staggering 1.4 trillion naira for the 364-day bills. So looking at this now, before the auction, it was announced that the investors could acquire each bond unit for as low as 1,000 naira with a minimum subscription of 5,000 naira in increments of 1,000 naira up to a maximum of 50 million naira. Maturity date for all of this treasury bill were set as follows: 10th of April 2025 for the 91-day bills, then 10th of July 2025 for the 182-day bills, and January the 8th 2026 for the day of the 360 bills. 364-day bills, rather, I beg your pardon. So we'll be going on a very quick break, and then when we return back, we'll be having a conversation on how SEC plans to enhance borrowing for SMEs and corporate bodies, because majorly SMEs are the key drivers of any country's economy and the GDP. So you sit back, we'll be right back. Thanks for staying with us. Yes, so now let's have a conversation around Security Exchange Commission, how they plan to enhance borrowing framework for government and corporate bodies. Now, the key drivers of every country's economy are actually the SMEs and business enterprises. So looking at all of this now, we could see how inflation, ravaged the country as at last year, and we could see how the team on the monetary policy met 6 times and then kept increasing the facial and the monetary policy, which is actually currently at 27+% increment. So looking at all of that now, it's shrink the borrowing power of SMEs, and if that does happen, if individuals, business and corporate organizations don't have the ability to be able to borrow to do businesses, and then if the interest rate is not feasible and is not on a very good note for investors to come in and then do business, get money, get loans, they wouldn't be able to do their businesses, and then the Nigerian economy in the long run would have to suffer it. So if this does happen, with all of, though it did happen in the previous year, 2024, we saw all of that. So now SEC, what are they doing, the Security Exchange Commission? Now they've planned to enhance borrowing framework for government and corporate organization, which is actually what is supposed to be done. So now this is the plan for the year, and then new policies, like I rightly mentioned in yesterday's edition, that new policies will be introduced to help Nigerian financial sector and Nigerian economy. All of this is to help stabilize the naira, which has been floated from the year 2023, and then see how it's going to contend with other financial currencies from other different world and then businesses all around the world. So looking at all of this now, if you could remember, the president made mention in his 2025 bill, I beg your pardon, that naira is meant to stabilize at 1,500 naira. So with this stability, which is forthcoming, and Nigerians are saying it, is going to help Nigerians get more momentum to be able to borrow, and then it's also going to open the doors wide open of Nigerian economy for investors to come in. So with all of these policies being introduced now, and then it's being seen through, all of this is also going to affect the economy positively, which is what President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration has promised, despite the fact that he always mentioned that he inherited a very crumbling economy. But moving away from him inheriting an economy, he's on the throne now, so he is doing what he can to be able to see how Nigerian economy gets stabilized. So this policy from SEC says the Security and Exchange Commission has announced plans to strengthen the regulatory framework for borrowing by government and corporate entities in Nigeria. SEC's Director General, Dr. Omotemi Agama, disclosed this in a statement highlighting the importance of borrowing in the financial system and need for strategic resource management. So Dr. Agama explained that the recent Supreme Court order mandating direct fund transfer from the federal government to the 774 local government areas influence the need for more robust borrowing framework. The rules, which will take effect on in this year, obviously 2025, are designed to help corporates raise capital while diversifying Nigeria's financial market. On the corporate and borrowing, Dr. Agama revealed that the Commission is changing the landscape with the new rules on central counterparties to reshaping the capital market landscape. So looking at this is one of the new policies that was just introduced by the SEC to help reshape the capital market landscape. So if this policy now, this counterparty policy gets to reshaping the capital markets, now it's going to help open more avenues, like I rightly mentioned, to help bring more room for further investors. So looking at all of this now, we are expecting to see significant change in these sectors. We are expecting to see that the borrowing landscape for SMEs and then the interest rate also is going to be cut down, because one, Nigerian naira is beginning to stabilize. But some business analysts and financial analysts have argued on the fact that if this doesn't happen, looking at the current economic situation, if it doesn't happen, then we would see that the Nigerian naira is going to dip more, and then the naira is also going to, instead of appreciating, is going to depreciate, which is also going to fall back on the economy, and businesses will find it hard to thrive. There's also other challenges, moving away from the financial sector now and the market capitalization landscape. We've talked about tariff hikes that is actually going on in the market in Nigeria right now, electricity bill, cost of fuel. Now, those sectors now are being handled now, particularly fuel, premium motor spirit. Depending on where you're purchasing, the prices are beginning to come down. Some filling stations are selling at 945 naira, some are selling at 970, 980. So if you're seeing all of this now, it all boils down with what the policies are being created and then how it's affecting and impacting the economy. So the market woman now, who always complains about dollar rising up, the moment things get to stabilize, that means automatically by default, without the president or anybody blowing a horn or a whistle, food items in the market, cost of transportation would also drop down drastically. So when all of this does happen, that is, first of all, this Naira needs to get stabilized first. With all hands being on deck and then the president planning on making all of these policies more effective, then we will be able to see all of this. The Crude for Naira initiative is actually an avenue to help cope out this, and then the de-dollarization of Nigerian economy too is actually one of the key major ways to help all of these plans of President Bola Tinubu be actualized based on Nigeria's economic landscape and what we are seeing now. Now, talking about SEC and the current policy based on capital landscape. So this is going to help SMEs have the ability, and government and corporate entities have the ability to be able to borrow, get loans, and then invest in their businesses, and then have a feasible percentage which they would be able to pay. And then this also is also going to create more avenue for Nigerians to be able to open rooms to create jobs for individuals. And then looking at what just happened during the past period, that was previous year, with the monetary policies being tightened and then the interest rates skyrocketing, and then also VAT being increased, it carved out a whole lot and then made some persons lose their jobs. So if the Naira gets stabilized and we see these policies that is being created by SEC being fully implemented, then there'll be more room for jobs and then more avenues for Nigerians to be able to enjoy its economy. And then looking at investors' aspects now, with everything being in place, then investors will be able to come in, and this is automatically going to open more room for Nigerian economy to blossom and then expand more. Moving away from Nigeria and then the local scene, let's go to our neighboring country, Ethiopia. They've made plans to open stock exchange after 50 years. Ethiopia is set to open a stock exchange after a 50-year absence, aiming to attract both domestic and international investors. In the year, if you remember, 2023, Ethiopia faced significant economic challenges with inflation exceeding over 30%, but by 2024, it had stabilized at 23.95% currently. And then to bolster its economy, the Ethiopian government is initiating a domestic bourse, starting with the internal public offering of shares in Ethiopian Telecom. So Ethiopian GDP trends over the past decades Ethiopia's GDP has experienced a downtrend from a peak of 10.4% in the year 2014, following the high GDP decline to 8% in the year 2015, even as year-on-year inflation rose, reaching 9.4% in the month of May 2025, primarily due to the high food prices. Since way before 2015, right, we've seen significant increase, and then the major key drivers of any inflation in any part of the world has been food. You can look at the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics report. The major key drivers of food, of inflation in Nigeria has been food. You can look at Asian markets, even the United States of America, Indonesia, Philippines, and Malaysia and Singapore. The major key drivers of inflation in all of these regions are food. So looking at this now, from that point, Ethiopia's GDP remained volatile, plummeting to a low of 6.1% in the year 2019, amid civil unrest that started in Addis Ababa and spread throughout the Oromian region, disrupting economic activities. Now, insecurity is under one challenge now that is also affecting the growth of economy. Now, we could see what is going on within the Middle East and also within Russia and Ukraine. These countries now, these regions now, are major distributors of grains and oil. So with the insurgency going on, it has hampered, aside COVID-19 coming to struck into the year 2020, and then aside all of that, these insurgencies going on within these regions have actually impacted the world global economy. That's why we witness the surge of inflation majorly in Africa, looking at the fact that Africa is a developing nation, and then we Africans, this region, tend to get hit more with everything that is going on negatively in the global scene. So looking at those angles now, though other part of the countries, other part of the world is actually facing inflation, but Africa is being hit the more. So Africans need to come together and find a way they can be able to rebound, and then even if the Western world are having their crisis, it wouldn't be affecting businesses going on within this sector. So still on Ethiopia, however, from 2019 to 2024, the economy bagged a gradual gradual recovery despite the ongoing inflation challenge and unrest from Arab militant men, with the GDP projection to reach 8% by 2024. This gradual raise marks a hopeful turn for Ethiopia's economic landscape. So with all of these increments and then with all of this growth, that's a bit of growth that Ethiopia witnessed. So this year, it didn't open up due to the insurgency that they faced in the previous years. They didn't have room for foreign investors to come in. Both domestic and foreign couldn't come in. But now, their homework have been done. They've been able to settle a certain level. They've been able to maintain peace at a certain level. So now they are creating an avenue for foreign and domestic investors to come in. Now, it's very, very key for investors to come into an economy. Why? Because it's what's going to help the economy grow and then expand the more. So with all of these policies now being put in place, and then the government's wanting to, open up stock markets in Ethiopia for over 50 years, that has not been done. So if this does happen, then obviously Ethiopian economy is also going to skyrocket, and then they are going to have a level form of maintenance of economic stability and also a growth in their GDP. Then now it boils down to home, Nigeria, where the president have said he's going to curb out inflation to 15%. According to his bill. So there are some avenues, there are some sectors that the president needs to pay attention to, sorting out insecurity, and again having the naira stabilized against the dollar. And again, the de-dollarization of Nigerian economy is also one of the major factors that is going to help him and his administration achieve all that he promised during his campaign period and achieve that which he has promised in his 2025 budget. Though the budget is yet to be, signed into law and projection, all the House of Reps have made mention of the fact that it's going to be signed on the 31st of this month, January 2025. So while we await all of those, then we would hope to see that when it gets signed, and with the current situation and progresses that the naira and every other sector is making, we hope to see that it gets to impact the economy at large, and as well as the GDP growing, and price of day-to-day household items will be reduced, so Nigerians would have smiles on their face again. This is how much time will permit us to take on to this edition of Business Points. My name is Samuel Odi. I'll see you again tomorrow as we talk more business. Bye for now.